What's up, YouTube family? It's Brendan from Market Makers. Guys, let's get into the Bitcoin price action, see if any progress has been made, or are we still in a pattern of descent, and where could we go to, up or down, my friends? If you like this type of TA, check out our Discord channel. The link is in the video description. Guys, if you're not trading on BitGet, click the link in the video description. $630 in bonuses to unlock, constant tournaments for you, super low fees, no VPN needed, and no ID. You can register with an email. Check both those links out in the video description, my friends. Let's jump into this. All right, guys. As you know from watching this channel, we are still trading in the macro daily pattern. These are daily candles. The Black Swan has dropped the market 23% peak to trough. 23%. Nobody else on YouTube gave you this pattern. I doubt anybody on YouTube understands this pattern, but this is the pattern we are trading in, my friends. So currently, we're still just rotating around in our Darvis box here, as you can see. We found support, back tested it a couple times, and we're just floating around. What does this mean for Bitcoin? Where are we going? And if you can see the downward slope here, okay? So let's go look at this on another time frame. But first, remember, we do have this bullish pattern, the white swan. Bitcoin is a story of swans right now, okay? It is literally a story of swans. You have a black swan dropping the market. You have a white swan that can save the market, okay? So the white swan could activate as early as 47.3, 47.5. That is where the 200 moving average will be by the time the price descends here. And the price is still descending, guys, because unlike the other YouTubers, they don't trade the other markets. They don't track the other markets. The SPX and the Dow are down. This is why Bitcoin is down. Tomorrow, I'll throw a chart up here to show you the SPX and Bitcoin. They track so closely together. Different scales of volatility, but very similarly tracking together, my friends. So again, I went over this in the last couple of videos. You guys can watch those videos where I show the price targets where you could get to, and you could activate all the way down at 31K, which would be a huge drop. 1618 of the Black Swan is 42,951, but like I said, I expect us to test the 200 moving average on the daily before it's all said and done. Wyckoff price cycle, guys. Again, check out Wednesday's video. Last Wednesday right before Thanksgiving, and Friday's video, I go into this in detail. 4 key phases: accumulation, markup, distribution, markdown. Okay, this is the price cycle that we're trading in, the Wyckoff price cycle. 3 boxes, 3 Darvis box setup has been repeated twice already. Let's go ahead and look at this in a little bit more detail, though. What's concerning about Bitcoin, these are weekly candles. Okay, understand these are weekly candles. What's concerning is you have your high that you made. You have a lower high that you made, weekly candles. You have a lower high that you made, and now you're still, this is still early in the week, but you're still in a lower high situation. Do you see this? So you've made 3 weeks of lower highs when it's all said and done. Sometimes it's best to zoom out, guys, and look at the bigger candles, look at the bigger time frames to get an idea of trend direction. And right now you have your all-time high, 2 closed weeks of lower highs, lower lows, and now you have a 3rd week of lower high and a lower low. You have to see how that closes, so pay attention to that, okay? Let's go ahead and look at Wyckoff here. Again, we talked about the possibilities of where we could descend to because Bitcoin's following the pattern of accumulation, markup, reaccumulation, distribution, markdown. We have accumulation, markup, reaccumulation, distribution where we are now. We are waiting the markdown phase, or we are waiting, since we're in a distribution box, to go up and make new all-time highs. Still a possibility in the distribution box, okay? But the markdown, where could it go to? Well, this markdown from peak to trough, from the all-time high here, 60, almost 65K, to the low is 28,790, right? That was a 55% price declination, a bear market for 6 or 7 months. That's Bitcoin, okay? So when you look at this in this fashion, what we have here climbing back up, what we could possibly do is a 55% drop if we repeated the exact same pattern. There's no reason that we have to repeat that, but that is a possibility because we already did that same type of price declination, and that would get you down to 38K Bitcoin. And again, that white swan goes all the way down to 31K Bitcoin, but I expect us to test it at 47K. Okay, so I expect us to test it there on the 200 moving average. Would make sense. Depends on the macro market conditions. If the Dow and the SPX are dumping at that time, It could easily fall through it. Doesn't have to activate. You have to see up candles. You got to look at your volatility. You got to look at your momentum. You got to look at everything to determine if you're in a reversal pattern or not. And of course, you can still see, if we go to this next slide here, you can still see we are trading in a weekly Navarro pattern. It's tracking 100% perfectly. Okay, look at your heart line where your fib is. When you lay out your fib tools, guys, when you use pitchforks, when you use things like this, make sure you have points of support, points of resistance to assure that you're laying it out correctly. You can see that all along this pitchfork. You can see it being used as resistance. Let me turn this magnet off. You can see it being used as resistance. You can see it being used as support. You can see it being used as support, resistance, support. This is tracking very accurately. This candle is having a very hard time defeating the heart line. It gets above it, keeps getting rejected, and that's where Bitcoin is right now. And remember, you don't want to print a right shoulder by dropping down into this quadrant, trading up and down in this range. And if you did break your head and shoulders on a weekly time frame, your target, your measured move is 10,781, thereabouts, within a couple $100. That's just a target. The target for reversal of this pattern before you go back up is 10,871. Market symmetry once again. So again, guys, we're still in a pattern of declination until we're not. So I know a lot of YouTubers are updating their thumbnails saying 85K incoming, 100K incoming. You're in a pattern of declination based on the weekly time frame, based on the weekly candles. You have to reverse that pattern before you can really start looking to the upside. That's the realistic takeaway of what you need to pay attention to, okay? So let's go ahead and look at the 4-hour time frame. If we were to start going up, there's a couple things I want to show you here. Obviously, I drew this black swan the other day on my last YouTube video while we were trading in it. You can see we did end up getting a nice pump from it, okay? So let me go ahead and get rid of this. Remove that black swan. A couple things I want to talk about. This is yet another white swan. It is a bearish pattern. It would call for price to travel, and hold on, let me get my brush. It would call for price to travel in this fashion, which you can see it is. If the brush wants to activate, there we go. It's following this line here all the way down to C, up to D, and this is where pattern would reverse and then start to drop. Okay, it is a bearish pattern. This is a white swan, bearish white swan. Now the max extension would get you up to just under the all-time high of 68,271. But again, like all patterns, guys, they have activation points. Let me get rid of these drawings. Let me show you this. This pattern can activate as early as at 238, just like it can on that daily time frame. So that 238, if you did track to this, which you obviously have to have upward momentum to track to this, that 238 would be roughly right about there, which would be about 63.9. Okay, so that's your first potential for a lower high to see if you could pump back out of here. But let me go ahead and remove this so we can talk about what everybody's drawing on YouTube. And, you know, this makes total perfect sense. Most people have a falling wedge here. Okay, I understand that. They're shrinking this up, they're drawing a falling wedge, and we're waiting for a breakout of the falling wedge. That is a valid argument. I'm not saying that's not a valid argument. That's a valid argument. Let me give you a different way to look at this, though. This is how I'm looking at this, because I'm taking into consideration the other marketplaces, which are very bearish at the moment, okay? So what I'm looking at is this. I'm looking at an area where several candles in the 4-hour time frame have touched and been rejected. This is the beginning, it looks to me, of a descending triangle. This is a bearish pattern. I say that because if you draw the line this way in current trend, and when I say current trend, I don't mean like yesterday. November 17th, you haven't had a high above this trend line. Since November 17th, you have not had a candle close above this trend line, okay? So 2 weeks you've been in this. I think you're forming a descending triangle, which means price will bounce up and down and up and down. And eventually, the bias for descending triangles is a break to the downside. How often? 2 out of 3 times, roughly. 2 out of 3 times this pattern would break to the downside, okay? So that's just something you need to understand. And if this is a descending triangle, because it could be a falling wedge, this is a different way to look at it. If it is a descending triangle, let's go ahead and get a measured move from this. I'm not going to take the descension pattern into the triangle into consideration, just from the actual triangle. Let's get a measured move, because I'm going to take it from, well, there's 2 ways you can measure it. Let's just be gracious and take it from here, okay? You can measure it from where you draw the top trend line, but I'm going to get some confluence here. If this was a descending triangle, where would this drop us to? And let me get my picture out of the way. 47.5. I don't know, guys. What's at 47.5? What is at 47.5? What is at 47.5? The white swan potential early ignition point with the 200 moving average on the daily. Market symmetry, my friends. It's all about market symmetry. Why I believe we are trading in a descending triangle. So let me pull that back up. This is what I think we're doing right now, and I think we're going to end up breaking out of the bottom, okay? And we'll know if we come back down and test this again. This to me is a descending triangle, and this drops you to 47.5. So 47.5, daily time frame, 200 moving average. I think that's the next move down for Bitcoin. And again, you're going to have pumps up and down, guys, pumps up and down. So we'll see. Now, you know, depending, there's different schools of thought with how many times you touch tops and bottoms, okay? So where do you count from? Some people go on a 5-touch rule, 3-touch rule, like an ABC correction, 5-touch rule, almost like Elliott waves. So you could say this is your, well, it depends, because see, this is our base. So you could say this is a first touch, second touch, third touch, fourth touch, fifth touch. You could say this is your first touch, second touch, third touch, and then come out. So, you know, there's different ways you can count this from the top and bottom. But again, the bias for this is to break to the downside. Those are just wave pattern counts, guys. I don't know how accurate they are, but I do know in Forex, we've been tracking triangle trading since the 1990s, and I can tell you the bias is heavily accounted for. It's 2/3 of the time. This descending triangles break to the downside, ascending break to the upside, okay? Especially since you descend it into the triangle. Keep that in mind. You descend it. It's a continuation consolidation pattern, which is why it has such a heavy bias. This essentially is acting as some type of ceiling to your descent, okay? So just as it gets compressed, price eventually will fall out. So we'll have to see what happens here. Let's go to the 1 hour time frame. 1 hour time frame. Have a nice double top that form. How closely is Bitcoin tracking the SPX? Last night, I shorted the SPX. It formed a double top. It broke down. They even matched the candles, okay? Bitcoin had a double top. It broke down. It pumped back up. A lot of demand down here, okay? A lot of different demand zones. We only got a 600-700 point drop here on Bitcoin. SPX dropped a lot. So we can see this pump back up. We tried 58.9 again, fell back down. Let's go ahead and look at some indicators since we're in the smaller time frame. Look at my volatility ribbons. So we have a lot of volatility in this area, as you can see. A lot of price volatility. You're losing your volatility here. When we pop up our different ATR is elevated, which makes sense. Like I said, you have a lot of volatility in that area. ATR tracks volatility. Our time segmented volume, not a lot of volume going on. When will Bitcoin make its next move? Well, I can tell you right now, not anytime in the near future. Because ATR has to descend, okay? So when ATR descends, this is when you get the big moves. This is when you get your pumps and dumps. So we're way, way above our baseline. Now you can establish a new baseline, but if we continue on this actual trend here, and there's no time frame for how long this takes to descend, it has to do with candle consolidation. You need candles. The more separation in candles, the more elevated your ATR is. Here's our momentum volume indicator. As you can see, it's sloping slightly downwards, going more flat. What does that mean? That means there's not as much money going into the asset right now. As you can see, the momentum on Shande is extremely flat, guys. Extremely flat. Let me look at some other indicators here. Do our indicator check. Let me look at our ATR pivot points. Guys, I trade VTV. Volatility trend volume is the best way to trade. It is the most accurate way to trade. This is how you can see your volatility, because everything coming from the Forex space, you need hyper volatility to make money. In the crypto space, you want pumps. You want dumps. This is where you make your money. You don't make your money in here. Okay, you make your money up here. You make your money down here. This is how you make money. Track volatility. It's a pro tip for you. ATR pivot points, as you can see, we have some nice support down here, which makes sense. That's where the candle wicked. So we have our GAN levels, of course. We have to see where this goes. And let me turn that off. Let me look at my displaced moving averages, my DMA cloud. See for bullish or bearish. Using the bottom of the DMA cloud with the 200 moving average with GAN. It's amazing how accurate GAN is. Guys, if you aren't trading with GAN, it's just another thing. If you aren't trading with GAN, you're really missing out. I know a lot of people use pivot points. I use them too. Gann square 9 is an absolute amazing feat that Gann was able to come up with this calculation of finding support. Okay, it has to do with the number 9. Many people consider it the master number. Lots of YouTube videos. That's a side topic. You guys can get into that if you're kind of a math geek and you want to understand why 9 is considered the master number. But Gann square 9, highly, highly accurate for tracking market movements. So right now we're above our DMA cloud. I mean, that's a tiny candle. There's no volume going into the asset right now. There's no money going into the asset because the other marketplaces are dumping. If you guys want to see what's happening in other marketplaces, watch my pro trades video coming out after this video, okay? Because we have a lot of trades going in the room. Let's look at our Ichi cloud. We got to be doing pretty well in the 1 hour time frame. Yeah, so in the 1 hour time frame, you're using the cloud as support. Makes sense. Again, accuracy of indicators, guys. Always look for confluence. You're 200. Look where Gann is. Look where the top of Ichi is. Just shows you how accurate certain indicators are, right? You're trying to move above your moving average here in the Ichi cloud. It looks like you're still in it. I can't tell if it dipped underneath the candle or not, but any rate, you got to tackle the first resistance point of 57.7, and we'll see if that can happen. Let me go ahead and remove that. Let me just get a trend health check. And we're going to do here, let's use our TEMAs. Triple EMAs, guys, they're EMAs of EMAs. It's actually a very complex calculation. I use them for trend health. I find them highly accurate. You can see we had a bullish cross here. It makes sense, bullish cross. And if we descend more, we could get a bearish cross. So we're trying to pump out of a bearish cross. So just track Bitcoin. It's going to be doing some chop because the other markets are falling apart. Quick check on the DXY. DXY had a monster pump from down here. It found support right on my fib circle. Had some trades go on in the pro trades room for Forex, and we had some really nice returns on those. I'll go over that in the pro trades video. DXY pumped back up, fell back through displaced moving averages, fell back through support. The markets are crazy today, my friends. So keep an eye on your money. Keep an eye on Bitcoin. And guys, check out those links. Love to see you in the room. Come try us out. Love to see you. Love to talk to you in the room. We have a fantastic community. Almost 6,000 people total in the Discord. Pro Trades room already starting to get a lot more people in it. And my friends, we have that room capped. That's going to be a small room. That will not be a 6,000 person room. It's going to be under 1,000 people trading all the different marketplaces. If you're interested in that, I'll put a link in the video to follow this, and as well, probably throw one in here if I remember. All right, guys, have a fantastic day. It's Tuesday. Happy trading, my friends.